Welcome back to the channel, all of my Sofi stock investors. We are going to keep this video short and sweet and straight to the point. The biggest thing that you guys need to know for the day, and potentially the biggest market catalyst for the whole entire week, is going to be happening right now. Currently, President Joe Biden is meeting with Fed Jerome Powell. This is a very rare event. This was not scheduled at all until just a couple of days ago, and it's very interesting the timing here, because the Fed is supposed to start reducing their balance sheet tomorrow, and all of a sudden the president wants to meet with Fed Powell. So obviously I think there's going to be a change of tone for the positive or the negative. Now, we're not really going to hear anything, at least we're not expecting to hear anything later today or over the next couple of days on exactly what that is. But I really want to pay attention to, obviously, if we do hear something, if the president comes out and makes a statement, or if the Fed comes out and makes a statement. They can always do that. But we do have some Fed speakers tomorrow, which could essentially spill the beans and give us some insight into what was said and possibly a change of policy. For an example, when you get these kind of special meetings, like, for an example, 2018, President Trump, he met with Powell, and he basically threatened to fire him on Twitter in person if he did not stop raising rates. And then what did he do? Well, he U-turned and he stopped raising rates. The Fed is not a part of the government legally, but they do have to somewhat cater to the political agenda of whoever elected them. And obviously this time around, it was Joe Biden that elected him. He was just confirmed for the for another 4-year term. So that's going to be potentially the biggest market catalyst. And why? Well, you're either going to get a more hawkish Fed. Joe Biden's either going to say, raise rates super aggressively, get inflation gone, so we can, help out the stock market later, right? Get inflation down ASAP. Or you're going to see the Fed kind of start to relax a little bit. In my personal opinion, it could be very bullish, because I think it's very clear, and I don't think it takes a major economist to sit here and say that, if energy prices were cheap, let's say gas was $2 a gallon again, like it was like a year ago, and food wasn't so crazy expensive, the other inflation wouldn't be so much to deal with. But it's the fact of your gas has more than doubled in a year, your food bill has went up like 50% in a year. Those are the things that are really hurting American families, and the Fed can't do anything about that. So if you're going to hurt the stock market, if you're going to hurt, the lending rates, you're going to make it so expensive to get a house or a car or to do anything, and you're not really going to get the things down like food and energy that really would help American families, then you're not helping anything, you're hurting everything. So in my personal opinion, you could get a bullish reaction out of this Fed meeting. We'll see. Maybe I'm too optimistic. Maybe, the government, maybe Powell doesn't realize this. I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think it's hard to deny, what I just said is the truth. So we'll see what comes out of it, and I think that's going to be the most important thing. As far as economic data and Fed speakers for tomorrow, you do have Bank of Canada interest rate decision. That could be pretty important. ISM manufacturing PMI, as well as JOLTS job openings. That all comes out at 10 a.m. in the morning, so that could be pretty important, obviously. Fed Williams, that speaks at 11:30, and then you do have Fed Bullard that speaks at 1 p.m. and watch to see if they spill the beans, per se, if they change their tone, right? Because if Powell doesn't make a statement, if Biden doesn't make a statement, then you're probably going to get some kind of change of tone or change of verbiage from some of these other Fed speakers. So that's very important. The markets are going to be paying attention to that a little bit more after this Fed meeting. And then on Thursday, you do have Fed Mester, Fed Logan. That's pretty much it as far as economic data as well. You do have initial jobless claims, non-farm productivity, continuing jobless claims, factory orders. None of that is expected to be high volatility catalyst. And then on Friday, you do have unemployment rate for May, non-farm payrolls for May. That comes out at 8:30 in the morning. Participation rate, average hourly earnings year over year, non-farm payrolls, manufacturing payrolls, government payrolls, things like that. And then you have ISM non-manufacturing PMI, Fed Brainerd, that speaks as well. All of that comes out at about 10 in the morning. Some of those data points coming out at 8:30. So that's going to be key. But you don't have a lot for economic data for this week. So I do think the Fed is going to be really the most important thing to pay attention to, really this meeting here. Now let's take a look at the Ortex data for SoFi stock. Let's first look at the option activity, and we could see one order totaling $111.2 thousand, positive order value of 100% for the day. So obviously a good thing, and it looks like you are seeing some activity around January 19th, 2024, the $5 calls, and they're so cheap right now. It makes sense to buy some longer dated options, especially on SoFi. You know, I say this all the time, Fed and FinTech, if there is a change of tone, then SoFi stock could easily go up 10, 20, 25% just based off of a change of tone from the Fed, possibly delaying or not reducing the balance sheet at all in the near-term future. That could be very bullish for SoFi, or just not raising rates as aggressively, or something along those lines. Could be very good for SoFi. Now, the short interest of free float is sitting at 18.05%. Current shares that are sold short of 131.33 million. Cost to borrow max is at about 6.56%, so relatively expensive to borrow shares of SoFi. 100% utilization, days to cover sitting at 3.81. Shares out on loan 211.53 million. Free float out on loan 29.07%. So there is a lot of shares that are still out on loan that could be used against the stock. And I said this a while ago, but I do think the sellers are really gone out of SoFi, and I do think it's just a lot of shorts that have really taken over in the stock. And I think that's the simplest way to actually put it and to describe the price action you've seen in SoFi stock. The short interest, 18%, is very, very high. Now, you still are seeing a lot of insider buys that are still coming through for Anthony Noto, as well as other board members. 37,000 shares just purchased by Anthony Noto May 24th, so I believe that was last week. Was that Thursday or Friday? So very, very good. And if you do look at this, it says SoFi, major insider and bank and big banks buying per 13F filings, and we went over that a little bit more in other videos, so go ahead and check those out. But you see a lot of banks, Deutsche Bank, Bank of Canada, the Swiss Bank, you're seeing JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, basically all of those banks are putting on some pretty massive positions on SoFi, share counts in the millions, but they're also buying puts to potentially hedge out that downside risk due to the current market environment. And I think SoFi stock really will blossom and really, become clear that this was a good investment really by 2023, when the student loan moratorium does get lifted, because people think, the government can get rid of student loans. They could get rid of like $10,000, but in the grand scope of things, student loan debt is the government's largest asset, and they cannot just mathematically get rid of that for people. So as unfortunate as it sounds, that will eventually come back, and that's going to be a main driver of SoFi revenue, at least for a couple of years once that does come back. And I think possibly 2023 could be that year, and it could be very good for SoFi. So it looks like, just to round that off, looks like you're seeing a lot of long-term bullishness, long-term optimism, but some short-term fear and short-term uncertainty. So I think that's why you're seeing those put options. Now, as far as the technicals, you're at a very important level. You're sitting at $7.32 per share. We have found a lot of resistance still around the 50-day moving average. It's like the algos, the algorithmic trading programs, do not want to let this thing break out and stay above the 50-day moving average. So when it does, that's when you could get a big run on SoFi stock, and that 50-day moving average is at $7.53 per share. As you already know, this has been a long-term resistance level for a very, very long time, and we're chilling in between $7 lately and that 50-day moving average. So we're either going to break under 7 or you're going to break above $7.53 per share, that 50-day moving average. That's going to be very, very good. The RSI is pretty much neutral, which is surprising after we have seen a major rally. The low was $4.82 per share. The high as of recently was $8.04 per share. That was almost a 50% return from the bottom to the top, and the RSI is only at 52.55, so pretty much neutral. Lots of room to potentially go higher in the stock before people could say, hey, the RSI is oversold. Maybe this thing has gone too hard, too fast. The MACD is bullish as well. It's been bullish for quite a long time. and overall looking very, very strong. So that is pretty much going to be all for this video. That is what you guys need to know. It's going to be relatively slower, I think, over the next couple of weeks. If you guys have never heard of the saying sell in May and go away, typically you do see people step back from the markets this time around and kind of enjoy summer, and then they kind of come back in the fall time, and that's why you tend to see lower volume around this time of the year. So I do expect a lot of volatility, but not quite what we have seen the first 5 months of the year, right? So that's going to be all for this video. If you guys want to support the channel, link for the Patreon down below in the pinned comment, as well as get yourself those free stocks with Webull, Moomoo, and Public down below in the description of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.